Okay, everyone, let's continue going through the PPE manual. So right now I am in the mentor resources section. So we went through the basics, now we're going into mentor resources. And so I just want to show you what your mentors are given and where we kind of direct them so that you're aware if they have questions for you and just so you know, right, what we share with them. So I'll click on this one on site. So when you go through this new PPE manual, Eric and I are going to be updating these a little, just the language we use a little bit as we go forward, because many, many of our PPE sites are no longer taking students on site. Okay. Many of our sites now are just offering virtual PPE experiences. And so things have changed a little bit. Our on-site placement instructions are the same for whether you're physically on site or virtual, just so you know. So we're going to be probably just saying like um, in some kind of rephrasing that instead of just saying on site. And then the virtual placement instructions, those again, those are for expectations. And I'm going to go over this, of course, but those are the expectations we have for you if you are doing and completing a virtual PPE. So, um, anyways, we're going to be updating that. That's part of that post-COVID update that we're going to be doing here and just changing some of this language. But so placement instructions. So what we tell them, right? This is what we tell your mentors. Um, we obviously there's a little bit of an introduction here explaining that's an 80-hour PPE. Saying we tell them that many students are somewhat apprehensive about their PPEs. You guys are a little nervous, and it's the fear of the unknown, and so we want to make sure that they are as prepared as possible to welcome you and to help you fit into the department, right? And we ask them to review the project requirements that we have for the PPE. We give them the guidance that the project should take you approximately 20 hours to complete. The students' final PPE report requirements, we want them to know what is expected of you, and so that they can help you meet your goals and the requirements of the PPE. The content areas, I'll be talking about that. You're like, what is a content area? And so I'll explain that later. But and then the evaluation tool to determine the goals and objectives for the student while you are on site so that they know what they need to evaluate you on at the conclusion of your PPE so that they're aware and that they're kind of like monitoring you and kind of paying attention, right? Um, and then we also want them to be able to identify topics, possible projects, tasks requiring completion, and the appropriate on-site contact and mentors for you. We want them to be able to be really ready for you to come. Okay. We also want them to review key expectations with everyone involved with the student. So everybody in their department and those that'll be meeting with you so that they give them a heads up and that they explain what you're doing there and why you're attending meetings with them and things like that. Okay. And then lastly, 5 CEUs will be awarded to all credentialed site mentors that provide substantive oversight and involvement in your PPE. Okay. And so schedules. So we ask them to prepare a schedule in advance of the PPE for you. Um, this is just a really helpful tool, not only for you as a student, but for them and their department and their staff so that they can all help you and support you, right? It gives you a sense of direction. And so it provides a framework as well for you that you can follow, and it gives you you know, a clear outline of what your weeks are going to look like while you're on the site. So considerations, we ask them to consider these things as they develop their schedule. So be clear about the number of hours the student is on site, or we should probably rephrase this to say while the student is um, um, available or needs the hours the student needs to be available for the virtual PPE. Be clear about the time for the project work as appropriate. Provide time for a tour of the facility and the department if this is possible. Provide time for orientation to work policies and procedures. So the basics, some of you may actually go through a full orientation. Um, or an abbreviated version of orientation for like new hires. Provide time to explain the organization chart and explain the reporting relationships necessary for the student to navigate the PPE successfully. So as you're, um, just as I told you that you should know the reporting structure and who you're responsible to, we ask them to also make that very clear to you. Okay. Explain clearly who the student should seek out when there are questions or they need advice or assistance. Allow time for the student to learn about the basic HIM functions if appropriate. This is especially true for students who have never worked in HIM or even in a healthcare facility. Identify areas where health information is managed, examined, used for administrative, financial, and clinical decision making, or where HIM professionals are working, and allow appointment time. So um, we ask them to consider HIM professionals working outside of the HIM department because we definitely want you to meet with those individuals as well. Allow time on a regular basis for feedback, discussion, questions, and mentoring in general. And this is maybe a good time to point out the fact that this is also important for you to make sure that you have a regular set time to meet with your mentor, to debrief and to ask questions and connect with them. These managers or mentors are extremely busy individuals. And for those of you that are working professionals, completely understand this. And so sometimes they get so wrapped up and they have this wonderful schedule for you, but they forget to include time for them to meet with you and actually mentor and support you and help you. And so if that's not already built into your schedule, please make sure that you ask about that right away. Okay. Other key responsibilities for the site mentor is to develop a major project that allows the student to integrate knowledge and skills. As I mentioned earlier, the project should take the student approximately 20 hours to complete. We want them to review your resume that we send to them in advance. We want them to identify who will be the primary contacts, secondary contacts, and who is responsible for what. We also want them to arrange for the following. So facility identification. So if there is a name badge required, other than the one that we provide you, if you are on site for them to please arrange for that. We want them to provide you with parking instructions if those are needed. Employee orientation, again, I mentioned that if that is a requirement, and then access to information systems or the training area. So Eric typically takes care of this in advance, but we usually need to work through the mentor to get this all set up and for them to have that ready to go when you arrive on site or start your PPE. Orientation. So students have been instructed to email their site mentors 1 to 2 weeks prior to the start of the PPE. The student will introduce themselves and address the following. And so we're going to talk about this because this obviously falls under student responsibilities, but we want to let them know what's coming their way. So in your email, you're going to send to the mentor, you're going to ask about arrival time and meeting place on the first day, or simply instructions for connecting with them virtually on the first day. The PPE site address, parking, PPE project preparatory work you may have for them. So it's a good idea during that introductory email to ask the site mentor if there's anything that you can begin working on in preparation for your PPE project. This helps you. You might be able to get a heads up on what your project entails in advance. And it also gets them, again, thinking about what they need to do to prepare for you to start that project on your first day. And then any other questions that the student might have. The student's first day, we want them to spend time with you, providing a brief introduction to the department and the organization. So we want them to introduce you to key resource staff, arrange to provide a tour of the organization, discuss the schedule, discuss the objectives and goals, and have the student sign any forms, confidentiality and security necessary for the organization. And then throughout the PPE, we ask them to meet regularly with you, provide opportunity for the student to clarify what they have learned, provide ongoing support as required, review expectations with the student regularly, talk to the personnel who are scheduled with the student for feedback. Most of our mentors are very good about this and they use that feedback then to convey on the final evaluation that you receive. We ask them to give you feedback regarding your behaviors, interpersonal skills, professional attitudes, and professional knowledge, skills, and opportunities for the student to ask questions. So we want them to give you feedback on all of these things that are so key to you being a successful HIM professional. And then provide an opportunity for the student to obtain guidance on projects or on the documentation needed for the final PPE report. Okay. And then at the conclusion of the PPE, we want them to schedule the final evaluation discussion and review the evaluation with you. I tell them to check their email and junk or spam email folders for the evaluation. Sometimes with the strong firewalls that healthcare organizations have, those evaluations get kind of hung up. One key I will tell you is that when you receive your evaluation, because you're going to complete an evaluation as well on your experience, when you receive that, know that your mentor also received the evaluation. And so it's okay to say, hey, did you get the evaluation from Katie? And if they say no, say check your spam or junk folder. Um, we also really recommend that throughout the PPE that they provide you feedback and not just during at the final evaluation discussion. We don't want any surprises during that time. We want you to be fully aware. And if your mentor is not really giving you feedback throughout, don't hesitate to say, how am I doing? It's okay to ask, okay? All right. And then at the end here, we also talk about the fact that we do give a clinical agency discount for site mentors, which is 50% off one course up to 4 credits of graduate or undergraduate during any of the semesters at the college. And so if they have questions about that, you can direct them to me or Eric. Okay. I do have here some sample schedules. Some of these are kind of old, but they do hold true, especially for our on-site PPEs. They're just kind of to give you and to give the mentor some ideas on how they could construct a schedule. Okay. And then virtual placement instructions. I am going to go through, wait a minute here. This is not what I wanted. I'm thinking of a different document, you guys. Never mind. This is probably going to go away. So I'm going to go on to project information. So project information. So this is a form that we would like the mentors to complete in advance or with you. And so this might be a good idea for you guys to make note of this and maybe even just know that this is here and we want you to complete this. This will become or should become part of your final PPE report. And I'll be talking a lot more about that here in the next lecture. But this is just for them to like kind of lay it out, the kind of the who, what, why, when, how, and point of your entire project. Okay. So that's what that form is. And then we have some sample projects in case you're wondering. These are just some sample projects that we've had students complete in the past, okay? This gives them some ideas, but it also gives you guys some ideas as well. We provide them with our course schema so they have an idea of what you may have already completed in terms of courses. So if they have a data analytics project that you need to complete, but you haven't completed data analytics yet, this might give them a good idea of what they can assign you. And then continuing education units. So as you may or may not know, when HIM professionals are credentialed through AHIMA, provide oversight for PPEs, they can earn CEUs, and they can earn up to 5 CEUs per time, but there is a max of 10 for the whole recertification cycle. So 10 CEUs for the 2-year period. So anyways, this explains how those CEUs work. And so what happens is when the mentor completes the evaluation on you, I in turn provide them with a CEU certificate for 5 CEUs. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just take a peek here at student resources. And I think what I'm going to do is hold off on these until the next lecture because this is going to be pretty much all about the final PPE report. And so I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you all.